This video is about reasoning in algebra and geometry. And we won't spend a lot of time on this section, but there are some tools here that will be important to us in section 2-6 and as we continue on in our study. Okay? And where we are headed is looking more and more at proof, proving things to be true, proving theorems to be true. Okay? And in here are some tools that we will use as we do that. Okay, on this page is the majority of what I'll talk about in this video. Okay, some properties of equality, some properties that you may not be familiar with, which are these which come in pretty handy for us as we're proving things, and also the distributive property. Okay, I'll kind of just give you the information. We will work on applying it later. Okay, the addition property of equality is the idea that I can add the same number to both sides of an equation and it will stay equal. Something that you've been doing as you have been solving equations. I'm just giving you a name for it. It's the addition property of equality. And if you want to abbreviate this to POE because it's too long, that's fine with me. Okay? The subtraction property of equality is a similar idea that I can subtract the same number from both sides of an equation and it will stay equal. Okay, I'm just giving you the name, subtraction property of equality. And the multiplication property of equality, that I can multiply the same number to both sides of an equation and it will stay equal. And the division property of equality, where I can divide both sides of the equation by the same number and it will stay equal. Okay, just giving you some names. Here are some ones that you may not be familiar with, but are pretty useful to us. Okay, one is the reflexive property of equality, the idea that everything is equal to itself. Okay, it doesn't seem very useful, but we use it quite a bit. So the reflexive property of equality, okay, it's reflexive because it's looking at itself because they're the same thing on both sides. The symmetric property of equality is if A is equal to B, then B is equal to A. It's symmetric because I can flip it around. Okay. The transitive property of equality is a little more complicated. If A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A must be equal to C. And I think of this kind of like dominoes, where if A knocks down B and B knocks down C, then really it was A that knocked down C, okay, or that A is equal to C. Okay, don't worry about this. This is from a section that we skipped over. The substitution property of equality is if A is equal to B, then B can replace A in any expression. So I can substitute just like you did last year in Algebra 1. Okay. Finally, the distributive property, you're probably pretty familiar with this property in that you distribute a number or a variable, okay, just called the distributive property. All right, there are some similar ideas with congruence that are true also for equality. The reflexive property is also true about congruence, that everything is congruent to itself. We use that quite a bit. The symmetric property, that you can flip things around, that if segment AB is congruent to segment CD, then segment CD must also be congruent to segment AB. Okay, and the transitive property is also true for congruence. Okay, and that's the end of this video. Just some terminology that will be useful to us later. Make sure you put all of these ideas down in your notes.